Hello from Mindset Daily, wishing you a day full of health, peace, and happiness. Thank you for watching the Mindset Daily channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe to support us. Thank you so much.
Have you ever wondered why some people seem unstoppable while others barely get started? What if the way you spend your first 10 minutes each morning is quietly shaping your entire future? And could one small shift in your morning routine be the key to finally destroying laziness for good? I've discovered something over the years that completely changed how I show up for life. Life doesn't respond to what we wish for or even what we desperately need. It responds to what we commit to consistently. And that commitment begins in the earliest hours of the day. Those precious, quiet minutes after you wake up, before the world demands your attention, are where the real battle against laziness is either won or lost. Each morning, you're faced with a decision. In that window of stillness, you silently choose. Will I live this day by intentional design, or will I slip into default mode and let the day run me? Will I be proactive with purpose, or reactive and scattered? These aren't just casual questions. They're life-shaping decisions that ripple into every area of your future. Long ago, I realized something powerful. The start of your day is like the rudder of a ship. It may look small, even insignificant, but it steers the entire vessel. In the same way, those opening minutes of your morning silently steer the direction of your entire day. Most people miss this. They hit the snooze button once, twice, maybe 3 times. They drag themselves out of bed, scramble through their routine, and rush out the door. Then, they wonder why the rest of the day feels like one giant uphill struggle. It's no mystery. Chaos at the start breeds chaos all day. Here's something worth remembering. Successful people do daily what unsuccessful people only do occasionally. It's not those rare bursts of motivation that shape your destiny. It's what you do with discipline, day after day. And it all starts with how you begin your morning. Now, don't worry. I'm not going to pitch you a 27-step hyper-optimized morning ritual that requires a spreadsheet and a coach. I believe in simplicity. I believe in mastering the fundamentals. So, I'm going to share a morning ritual that has transformed the lives of thousands of people I've worked with around the world. People just like you who were tired of letting laziness steal their momentum and potential. The very first element of this ritual is so obvious that most people overlook it entirely. You have to wake up early. And I don't just mean earlier than usual. I mean early enough to claim time for yourself, before the world starts making demands, before the emails, before the kids, before the noise. For some people, that's 5 a.m. For others, it might be 6 a.m. It's not about the specific time on the clock. It's about carving out intentional time before your obligations start crowding in. You know what most people do? They calculate the absolute latest time they can wake up, down to the last minute. Just enough to shower, dress, and barely make it to work. No space, no silence, no control. And then they wonder why their day feels like it's slipping through their fingers. So if you're ready to stop living in chaos and start leading your life with purpose, commit to taking back your mornings. Wishing you health, happiness, and the discipline to keep showing up. And hey, don't forget to subscribe to Mindset Daily for more inspiration that moves you forward. That kind of routine, waking up just in time to rush out the door, is like skating on thin ice. You're constantly reacting instead of leading. When you wake up with barely enough time to get dressed and make it to work, you've already lost the battle against laziness. You didn't even give yourself a chance to fight. But when you rise early, an hour or even 2 ahead of your first obligation, you reclaim control. You move from passive to proactive. You set the tone, rather than letting the day dictate it. I remember speaking with a young man who told me he never had time to read, to exercise, or to plan his day. I asked him, "What time do you usually wake up?" He said, 7:30 a.m., just enough time to get ready and rush out the door by 9. And I said, "There's your problem." At first, he looked at me like I had 2 heads, but he gave it a try. 6 months later, after shifting to a 5:30 a.m. wake-up time, he had read over a dozen books, dropped 20 pounds, and even received a promotion at work. What changed? Not luck, not magic, just a simple decision to take back his mornings, and with them, his momentum. Now, let's talk about the second element of a powerful morning ritual, hydration. Not with coffee, with water. After 6 to 8 hours of sleep, your body is naturally dehydrated. Yet what do most people do? They reach for coffee as soon as they wake up. But coffee actually dehydrates you further, draining your system before you even get started. Instead, build the habit of drinking 16 to 20 ounces of water right after you wake up. This simple shift can jumpstart your metabolism, wake up your brain, and energize your whole body in ways that might surprise you. I remember a gentleman who approached me after a seminar. He said, "Mr. Rohn, I've struggled with low energy for years. I've tried every supplement, diet, and trick in the book. But when I started drinking water first thing in the morning, just water, everything began to change. Something so basic, so simple, yet it transformed his entire day." Now on to the third piece of this ritual, movement. Your body was never meant to be still all the time. It was made to move. Morning exercise, even just 15 to 20 minutes of it, sends a powerful message to your subconscious mind. You're telling yourself, "I'm in charge. I'm disciplined. I do what needs to be done, even if I don't feel like it right now." And no, you don't need to train like an athlete or commit to grueling workouts. That's not the point. The point is consistent movement. Walking, stretching, yoga, light calisthenics, whatever suits your body and schedule. Remember, consistency beats intensity. 15 minutes of movement every day does far more for your health and mindset than 2 hours of extreme effort once a week. I once met a woman at a seminar who was carrying around 60 extra pounds. She told me she had tried every diet under the sun. I asked her, "What about exercise?" She rattled off the usual reasons. No time, too tired, don't know what to do. So I challenged her. "Start with 15 minutes of walking each morning," I said. "That's how change begins, one small habit at a time." She agreed, though reluctantly, to walk every morning for 90 days. 3 months later, I received a letter from her with a photo enclosed. She had lost 30 pounds. But more importantly, she wrote, "Jim, for the first time in my life, I feel in control. Starting my day with this one small victory, it changes everything. It carries over into every part of my life." That's the true reward, not just weight loss, but the shift in identity. She wasn't just exercising. She was reclaiming her power. Now, the fourth element of this morning ritual is one that most people overlook completely: feeding your mind. What do most folks do? They roll over, grab their phone, and instantly flood their brain with negativity, news headlines, social media chaos, comparison, fear. And they wonder why they feel drained before the day even begins. Instead, I challenge you to spend just 15 minutes each morning reading something uplifting, something that expands your mind and feeds your spirit. It could be a powerful self-development book, a biography of someone you admire, a spiritual text, or even a collection of thought-provoking quotes. The key is to be consistent. Because 15 minutes a day might not feel like much, but over the course of a year, that adds up to more than 90 hours of personal growth. 90 hours that most people never give themselves. Can you imagine what that kind of focused learning could do for your confidence, clarity, and creativity? I've always said that formal education will make you a living, but self-education can make you a fortune. And there's no better time to invest in your self-education than in the morning, before the rest of the world starts pulling at your attention. I'll never forget a conversation I had with a truck driver. He told me, "Mr. Rohn, I drive 10 hours a day. But before I hit the road, I read for 30 minutes every morning." In just 3 years, he'd read over 100 books. And get this, he started his own logistics company, built entirely from the insights he gathered from those morning readings. Today, he employs 20 people and runs a 7-figure business. It all began with that quiet, consistent commitment to read before the day began. That brings us to the fifth element, strategic planning. You see, most people start their day in reaction mode. The alarm goes off, and they immediately begin putting out fires, answering texts, checking emails, dealing with family needs, or work stress. They're in survival mode before they even brush their teeth. But what if, instead, you took just 10 minutes every morning to plan with intention? I'm not talking about a long list of 25 tasks that never gets finished. I'm talking about identifying your top 3 priorities. The 3 most meaningful actions that will truly move your life forward that day. Just 3. When you start your day by focusing on what matters most, you take back control. You move from chaotic to clear, from reactive to proactive. You stop spinning your wheels and start building momentum. I once worked with the CEO of a mid-sized manufacturing company who was drowning in 70-hour work weeks. He was always putting out fires, never ahead of the game, and constantly exhausted. Let's continue turning chaos into clarity, one morning at a time. Wishing you vibrant health, unshakable focus, and a day full of victories. Don't forget to subscribe to Mindset Daily, your go-to source for building a life by design, not by default. He was falling further behind with each passing week, exhausted, overwhelmed, and constantly playing catch-up. That's when I introduced him to this simple, yet powerful morning planning ritual. Just 60 days later, everything began to change. His workweek dropped from 70 hours to 50. Company profitability shot up by 22%. But more importantly, he was back at the dinner table with his family every single night. What caused that dramatic shift? Just 10 minutes of focused, strategic planning each morning. That was it. A small change with life-altering impact. Now, let's talk about the sixth element of this morning ritual, visualization. I know for some, this might sound like something mystical or woo-woo, but I promise you, it's grounded in solid neuroscience. Every morning, I want you to spend 5 minutes visualizing yourself succeeding at your most meaningful goals. Don't just think about them, see them. Picture yourself completing those 3 priorities you identified earlier. Feel the emotions of accomplishment, confidence, and progress. Why is this so powerful? Because when you visualize success, you're actually activating a part of your brain called the reticular activating system, or RAS for short. This is the brain's internal filter. It determines what you pay attention to. When you visualize success, you program your RAS to notice the people, opportunities, and ideas that will move you toward your goals. You're not just dreaming, you're preparing. You're priming your mind to look for ways to win before the day even starts. I once worked with an Olympic athlete who shared something that stuck with me. She said, "Jim, at our level, everyone's talented. Everyone trains hard. What separates winners from everyone else is the mental preparation." She didn't just practice on the track, she practiced in her mind. And the same applies to all of us. The most important battles are won or lost long before we take action. They're won in the mind. Now, let's move to the seventh and final element of this ritual, gratitude. Before you rush into your day, take just 3 minutes to intentionally express gratitude. It could be through quiet reflection, a written list, prayer, or meditation, whatever feels natural to you. What matters is the shift in perspective. Gratitude is a powerful antidote to laziness because it recenters your focus. Instead of obsessing over what's missing or what's hard, it brings you back to what's good, what's working, and what's already a blessing in your life. It cultivates energy and drive. Because when you start your day thankful, you're much more likely to act with purpose. It shifts your mindset from scarcity to abundance. And that single shift, it changes everything. When you start operating from a place of abundance, believing you have enough, that you are enough, you naturally become more energized, more creative, and far more resilient. You're no longer trying to survive the day, you're shaping it, owning it. I once spoke with a man who had hit rock bottom. A devastating business failure had taken everything: his finances, his confidence, and nearly his family. He was paralyzed by depression, waking up each morning with no motivation and no purpose. I encouraged him to include a simple gratitude practice in his morning routine. He was skeptical. "Jim," he said, "how can I be grateful when I've lost everything?" But he agreed to give it a try. 6 months later, the man was a different person. He'd launched a new business, rebuilt his financial footing, and rekindled his relationship with his wife and kids. He told me, "When I stopped obsessing over what I had lost and started focusing on what I still had, my health, my family, my ideas, everything began to change. My energy returned. My creativity came alive. I even laughed again." That's the hidden power of gratitude. It helps you reclaim your life from the inside out. So there you have it, 7 powerful habits that, when practiced each morning, will absolutely destroy laziness and set the tone for a day filled with momentum and progress. Wake up early. Hydrate your body. Move with purpose. Feed your mind. Plan strategically. Visualize your success. And express heartfelt gratitude. Each step might seem simple on its own, but together, they form a transformational ritual. Now, I know what some of you may be thinking. "Jim, that sounds amazing, but I just don't have over an hour every morning to do all of that." And to that, I say, you don't have time not to do this. Because when you start your day by investing in yourself, everything else improves. You become more focused, more productive, more creative, and more resilient. That hour in the morning pays dividends all day long. Still feeling pressed for time? Let me offer you the minimum effective dose, just 30 minutes. Start with a tall glass of water. While you hydrate, stretch for 5 minutes. Then, read something uplifting for 10 minutes. Plan your top 3 priorities for 5 minutes. Take 5 minutes to visualize your success. And finally, end with 5 minutes of gratitude. Even this shortened version can dramatically upgrade the quality of your mornings and your life. But understand this, laziness isn't a one-time opponent you defeat and never face again. It shows up every single morning. The real victory is won daily, in those early hours, before the world even wakes. That's why this ritual matters. It equips you to win those battles, over and over, until discipline becomes identity and success becomes inevitable. Now, don't expect it to be easy at first. Your old habits will fight back. That snooze button will whisper your name. The warmth of your bed will try to convince you to stay. But what's more powerful, comfort for a moment or progress for a lifetime? Wishing you strength, discipline, and daily wins as you transform your mornings. That feeling of discomfort when you start something new? It's completely normal. It's not a sign that you're failing. It's part of the process. I remember vividly when I first committed to waking up early to work on myself. It wasn't easy. It was downright painful. I'm not one of those people who naturally jumps out of bed at dawn. In fact, I had to set 3 alarms just to make it happen. I even placed the alarm clock on the other side of the room so I'd have to physically get out of bed. And yes, I splashed cold water on my face more times than I can count. But something remarkable happened around day 21. Slowly but surely, I began to wake up on my own, before the alarm. No more dragging myself out of bed. My body adapted. My mind followed. That's the quiet power of habit. First, you build your habits, and in time, they start building you. Discipline becomes second nature. The resistance that once felt overwhelming begins to dissolve. And here's the kicker. What once felt like a struggle turns into something you actually look forward to. The effort becomes joy. The hard becomes habit. That's when you know you're winning the internal battle. Let me share another truth I've learned the hard way. Most people drastically overestimate what they can achieve in a single day, but underestimate what they can achieve in a year. You might not feel radically different after doing your morning ritual for a few days, or even a few weeks. But stay the course. Practice it day in, day out, for a full year, and your life won't just improve. It'll be nearly unrecognizable. Imagine this. A year from now, you've dedicated hundreds of hours to building your physical strength, sharpening your mental clarity, planning your goals with purpose, and nurturing your spiritual well-being. How could that not revolutionize every part of your life? It's the same principle that governs compound interest, but instead of your money growing, it's you growing. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, but Jim, I'm just not a morning person. I'm a night owl. Trust me, I've heard that more times than I can count. And yes, it's true that we each have unique internal clocks. Some people feel more alert in the evening, while others thrive in the early morning hours. But here's the reality you can't ignore. The world doesn't operate on a night owl schedule. It runs on a morning rhythm. And nearly every high achiever I've studied, interviewed, or coached over the past several decades shares one trait in common. They rise early. And it's not a coincidence. Morning hours offer something priceless, a clean slate, free from distractions and obligations. A window of time when your mind is fresh and your environment is quiet. That's when you have the greatest power to influence your day, before the noise, the emails, the demands begin. Even if you've always considered yourself a night owl, I challenge you to test this. Give yourself 30 days. Stick to it. You might be surprised at how your body and your results start to shift. You don't need to be perfect, just consistent. And yes, one more thing I often get asked is, Jim, what happens if I miss a day? What if I oversleep or something unexpected happens and I can't complete my morning ritual? The answer is simple. Just don't miss 2 days in a row. Everyone slips up from time to time. That's human. The real test isn't whether you fall off track. It's how quickly you get back on. What I've consistently observed in the most successful people isn't flawless execution. It's the ability to recover fast. They don't let one missed day spiral into 2, or let 2 missed days turn into a week, and then quietly let the whole ritual fade away. They catch themselves, course correct, and keep going. We're not chasing perfection here. That's not the goal. We're aiming for progress. Measurable, sustainable progress. And if you commit to this morning ritual even 5 days out of 7, you'll be miles ahead of where you'd be without it. Momentum builds from consistency, not from perfection. Now let's talk about a powerful force that quietly shapes our mornings: technology. For most people, the very first thing they do when they wake up is grab their phone. They check emails, scroll through social media, or dive into the news, all before even getting out of bed. But here's the danger. When you start your day like that, you're immediately in reactive mode instead of creative mode. And that sets the tone for everything else. So I challenge you, keep your phone out of your bedroom completely. If you're using it as an alarm clock, it's time to invest in an old school, no distraction alarm clock. And whatever you do, don't check your phone until you've finished your morning ritual. Just this one small change can dramatically amplify the power of every step we've covered so far. Think about what you're telling yourself when you reach for your phone first thing. You're saying, what other people need from me is more important than what I need for myself. But when you begin your day with intention, with discipline, you're saying something far more powerful. Becoming the person I'm meant to be comes first. Let me share something personal. In my younger years, I had a bad habit of inconsistency. I would get fired up about personal growth, dive in headfirst, and give it everything I had for a few weeks. Then, like clockwork, I'd burn out. I'd skip a day, then two, and before I knew it, I was back to square one. It was a frustrating cycle. Intense enthusiasm followed by disappointment and guilt. What broke that cycle for me wasn't a breakthrough moment. It was a shift in mindset. I stopped trying to transform everything overnight. I stopped chasing quick results. Instead, I focused on just one thing. Win the morning, every single morning. That single adjustment, that shift from trying to force a revolution to nurturing quiet, daily evolution, changed everything for me. That's the difference. And that's exactly what I'm offering you today. Not some revolutionary program that demands superhuman discipline, but a quiet, steady process of evolution. A method grounded in the principle of compound interest, not with money, but with your daily habits. Tiny, consistent actions that, over time, yield massive transformation. Let's explore one final but essential piece of this ritual, the night before. Because here's a truth many overlook. Winning the morning actually starts the evening before. If you stay up late binge-watching TV shows or endlessly scrolling through social media, you're not relaxing. You're silently sabotaging tomorrow's momentum in exchange for tonight's fleeting entertainment. I strongly encourage you to establish a firm bedtime, and more importantly, honor it. For most people, that means lights out by 10 p.m. if you want to rise at 5 or 6 a.m. feeling truly rested. Yes, your current habits will fight back at first. You might feel restless or tempted to break the cycle. But remember, short-term discomfort often leads to long-term liberation. That extra hour of sleep could be the foundation for your breakthrough. Consider adding a short evening ritual, just 15 to 20 minutes, designed to help your mind and body ease into rest. This could be reading something calming, journaling a few thoughts, or simply reflecting on your day. If possible, stay away from screens for at least an hour before bedtime. Give your nervous system a chance to unwind the way nature intended. I once worked with a high-powered attorney who told me that adjusting her bedtime routine was harder than changing her mornings. She had built her career around working late into the night, eventually falling asleep with the TV still playing. But once she committed to a consistent bedtime and a short, intentional evening routine, her sleep improved dramatically. As a result, her mornings became smoother, her focus sharper, and her energy more sustained. Now let's come full circle. What's the ultimate goal of everything we've been talking about? It's not just about waking up early or checking boxes. It's about destroying laziness at its roots. Because laziness isn't always obvious. It doesn't always look like lying on the couch all day. Sometimes, it disguises itself as procrastination. Sometimes, it's distraction or even doing busy work that keeps you from what truly matters. Sometimes, it's making excuses or quietly accepting less than your best. But this morning ritual attacks laziness from every angle. It fuels your body with movement and hydration. It sharpens your mind through reading and strategic planning. It strengthens your heart through visualization and gratitude. And when you're operating with physical energy, mental clarity, and emotional resilience, laziness doesn't stand a chance. And here's the beauty of it all. When you win the morning, you tend to win the entire day. Those early victories create momentum, and that momentum builds a positive spiral that seeps into everything else you do. It's like lighting a match that sets your whole day on fire, in the best way possible. I once worked closely with a sales team that was really struggling with consistency and motivation. Their performance was all over the place. One incredible day followed by 2 or 3 lackluster ones. Their energy was unpredictable. So, I walked them through this exact morning ritual and asked them to start tracking their results. Within just 60 days, not only had their sales increased by 37%, but the dramatic highs and lows smoothed out. They were no longer at the mercy of their moods. Instead, they were showing up strong every single day. The team leader said something to me I'll never forget. He said, "Jim, before we started doing this, our productivity was driven entirely by emotion. If we felt motivated, we performed. If we didn't, we floundered. Now we have a system that creates motivation on demand." That's the power of this morning ritual. It becomes a system for generating not just focus, but energy, drive, and discipline. It doesn't depend on whether you feel like doing it. Instead, it shifts how you feel by transforming what you consistently do. Now, let's talk about one last concern I hear all the time. People say, "Jim, I've tried morning routines before. They worked for a bit, but I always slipped back into my old patterns." And let me tell you, I get it. It's a familiar cycle for many. But I've also discovered something critical. Most people fail because they try to change everything at once. They dive in too fast, overwhelm themselves, and when life throws a curveball, the whole routine collapses. That's why I always encourage starting small. Don't try to take on the entire ritual all at once. Begin with something simple. Wake up just 30 minutes earlier than usual. Use that time to drink a full glass of water and read something uplifting or educational for 15 minutes. That's it. Do it consistently until it becomes second nature. Once that part feels automatic, add another element. Sustainable change is born through gradual implementation. Not a sprint, but a marathon. And if you want to double your chances of success, build in some accountability. Tell someone you trust about your commitment. It could be a spouse, a friend, a coworker, anyone who wants to see you grow. Better yet, find someone who's willing to join you in this morning practice. There's something powerful about shared progress. On those inevitable days when your willpower is running low, knowing someone else is depending on you can make all the difference. I remember working with two business partners who committed to holding each other accountable for this ritual. They made a simple pact. Each morning after completing their routine, they would send each other a single word, "Done." That was it. But there was a catch. If either one failed to send that message by 7 a.m., they owed the other $50. It may sound small, but the effect was massive. They told me they almost never had to pay the penalty because neither of them wanted to let the other down. That's the power of accountability. It doesn't have to be complicated. It just has to be consistent. Now, let's shift gears for a moment and talk about something much deeper, the long-term compound effect of this morning ritual. Let's run some simple numbers. If you invest just 1 hour each morning into this process, that adds up to 365 hours over the course of a year. That's more than 9 full 40-hour work weeks devoted entirely to your personal growth. Imagine that. 9 weeks set aside not for your boss, not for chores, but for you. How could that not change your life? How could that level of consistent investment not completely transform your health, your focus, your mindset, your career? And how could it not obliterate laziness and procrastination in the process? I've said this many times. Success is not magical. And it's not some mystery that only a chosen few get to unlock. Success is the natural outcome of consistently doing the small things that matter. This morning ritual? It's just that. It's not flashy or complicated. It's the repeated, steady application of basic but powerful fundamentals. And over time, those fundamentals create extraordinary outcomes. Let me tell you about a young woman I mentored a few years ago. When she first came to me, her life was in a difficult place. She was stuck in a job that drained her spirit, living paycheck to paycheck and quietly battling depression. But what hurt her most was that she had a dream. She wanted to be a writer. Yet, day after day, that dream stayed buried under the weight of doubt, fatigue, and disorganization. She simply couldn't make any progress. So, I introduced her to this morning ritual. I asked her to focus especially on the reading and strategic planning portions and to tailor them toward her writing goals. Then, she made a commitment to wake up at 5 a.m. every single morning. She committed to waking up at 5 a.m. every day and spent at least 30 minutes writing before heading off to her regular job. The first few weeks weren't easy. Some mornings, she slept in. Other days, she sat staring at the page, tempted to quit. But she didn't. She stayed the course, and slowly, something remarkable began to unfold. After just 6 months, she had completed the first draft of her novel. 3 months later, she signed with a literary agent. And by the 14th month, she had landed a book deal with a major publisher. That's right. What once seemed like an impossible dream was now a reality. When I asked her what had made the biggest difference, her answer was powerful. She said, "For years, I kept waiting for inspiration to strike before I wrote anything. I was completely at the mercy of my emotions. But this morning ritual changed everything. It taught me that action comes first, not motivation. Once I made the commitment to write every morning, whether I felt inspired or not, the inspiration eventually followed. That, my friends, is the real secret. Don't wait for motivation to show up at your doorstep. You move first. You take the action. And that movement, consistent and deliberate, pulls motivation in like a magnet. That's how you eliminate laziness at its core. That's how you win. Let me leave you with something to reflect on. This morning ritual isn't just a list of tasks. It's a gateway to freedom. Freedom from laziness, freedom from chronic procrastination, and freedom from the life that's been limited by untapped potential. It might seem contradictory, but discipline is the doorway to freedom. It's one of life's greatest truths. When you learn to master your actions, especially those first critical moments of the day, you gain control over everything else. And that control, that's what sets you free. I believe that within every one of us, there's an extraordinary version waiting to be released. That version is vibrant, creative, disciplined, kind, focused, and fully alive. But often, that potential gets buried, hidden beneath layers of poor habits, negative beliefs, and yes, persistent laziness. This morning ritual becomes a daily excavation. With each passing day, you chip away at those layers. Slowly but surely, you begin to unearth the person you were always meant to be. And that's where the real transformation begins. It won't happen overnight. This isn't about a sudden revolution. It's about steady, meaningful evolution. But if you truly commit to this process, I promise you, a year from now, you'll look back and be amazed at the progress you've made. You'll wonder why you didn't start sooner. So today, I want to issue a real challenge. Not just to try this morning ritual, but to fully commit to it. There's a massive difference between trying and committing. When you try, you leave room for excuses. You give yourself permission to quit. But when you commit, you shut the back door. You eliminate the escape route. You say to yourself, this is happening, no matter what. Make that decision right now. Commit to the next 30 days. For 30 days, you will wake up early. You will hydrate your body. You will move, even if it's only for a few minutes. You will nourish your mind with something valuable. You will plan your day with intention. You will take time to visualize success. And you will express genuine gratitude. Not because it's easy, not because it always feels good, but because you are becoming the person you are truly meant to be. Just 30 days. That's all I'm asking. Give this ritual your full, consistent effort for 1 month, and you'll start to notice changes, perhaps subtle at first, but undeniably powerful. You'll feel your focus sharpen, your energy rise, and your mindset strengthen. Most importantly, this ritual will help you destroy laziness before it has the chance to destroy your day, your momentum, or your future. Remember this. Success is simply a handful of disciplines practiced daily. And failure? It's usually just a few poor decisions, repeated again and again. It's the sum of our choices, made quietly each morning, that ultimately shapes the trajectory of our lives. So choose wisely. Choose the path of discipline. Choose the morning that puts you in charge, not the day that drags you along. Choose consistency, growth, and inner victory. Choose to destroy laziness before it even has a chance to whisper in your ear. Thank you for being here with me today. Now go out there, win your mornings, win your days, and over time, win your life, one sunrise at a time. The choice is yours, and the time is now. I believe in you. Wishing you strength, joy, and lasting success. And don't forget to subscribe to Mindset Daily for more life-changing content. Stay healthy, stay focused, and stay inspired.